Welcome to the 24th episode of the Tertius Times podcast. Today is Thursday, September 23rd, 2021. I'm your host, Brian Wright, and today in the news segment, we will look at positive changes in Sudan. We will also continue to hear from Ssebaggala Moses, director of Shared Love Uganda. Today, he will discuss how some Muslims attempt to find converts to Islam in Uganda and the results that frequently occur. The theme for this week will be on Central and East Africa, corresponding to this week's interview. The links to the stories and Shared Love Uganda are in the description. Tomorrow will be Save North Korean Refugees Day, with various activities to be held in Washington, D.C. Details will be provided at the end of the podcast. The link to more information is in the description. Even though Sudan is ranked 13th out of 50 on Open Doors 2021 World Watch List of the most difficult countries to be a Christian, quote, the new government, unquote, after Omar al-Bashir was ousted by the military, according to 2 years after revolution, Christians in Sudan evaluate gains from The World, WGBH Boston, August 3rd, 2021, quote, trying to gain recognition on the international stage is working to provide protections for religious minorities. Unquote. Some of what the new government has implemented include repealing the country's apostasy law, which essentially made it illegal to leave Islam, and to accuse someone of being an infidel or a non-believer in Islam is now itself a violation of the law. Even drinking alcohol for non-Muslims is now acceptable. While the report includes stories of Christian Sudanese happy with the changes, for others it is too little too late. Many Sudanese Christians fled to the newly created South Sudan in 2010 to escape persecution under the former al-Bashir government, which has resulted in their decrease in political power. Quote, Simon Suleiman, a Christian lawyer with the Sudan Council of Churches, unquote, the article points out, quote, would like to see the government take more concrete steps to embrace Christians, appointing more Christians into government, bringing Christianity into public schools alongside Islam, increasing representation of Christians on TV and radio, and returning church property seized under the Bashar regime, unquote. Others call for government approval of building requests for churches, many of which had been destroyed under the previous leader. While there are concerns and difficulties today for Christians living in Sudan, only time will tell if the legislative changes will also change the larger society's attitudes of acceptance of religious minorities while substantially decreasing and ultimately eradicating persecution and oppression. Pray for Sudan that the steps it has taken to oppose persecution and increase acceptance of religious minorities, particularly Christians, will continue to spread throughout the country. Pray for all Sudanese that they embrace the notion that we are all made in God's image and accept one another as equals. Pray for the church in Sudan, that God would continue to strengthen and bless its members, and that all believers in Christ would find refuge in him, no matter what opposing forces gather against them. Pray that Christ's love would prevail in Sudan. And now let's listen to the fourth segment of my interview with Ssebaggala Moses, director, Shared Love Uganda. In this segment, he discusses how Muslims are attempting to make inroads into Uganda, a majority Christian nation, and the response they often receive. Welcome back once again to our interview with Ssebaggala Moses, director of Shared Love Uganda. I wanted to ask you, Moses, about, as we look at this map again, the threat of militant Islam, radical Muslims, terrorism, and things like that. One thing that occurred to me as you were talking earlier, I thought of Lebanon, which from what I understand, I wasn't alive at the time, but I believe it was in the 1950s or so, was a very vibrant, economically prosperous, free country, mainly Christian, but then slowly but surely radical elements of Islam kind of seeped into the country, and it's become one of the poorest countries in the Middle East, if not the world. So as we talked before I began the recording, you mentioned some things about Islam in Uganda. So why don't you go ahead and give us the details of that? What is going on in Uganda and maybe some of these surrounding countries with the more militant, for lack of a better term, evangelistic Islam, if you will? What's going on with that there in Uganda?
Okay, thank you very much. In Uganda, some years back, there was a very, very big force of putting mosques almost every village. And the truth is there are a lot of mosques that have been constructed. And even I remember sometime back in our parliament, they wanted to bring the Sharia law so that it can be, I think it was introduced so that at least Uganda could adopt that. But because there are so many Christians, they stood their ground and they said, no, we shouldn't be moving on that. And we thank God that at least didn't work out. But what most of the Islam growth has been on constructing mosques and also maybe starting some programs like sponsorship programs where they sponsor some children that if you want to maybe have a scholarship, just be converted, and then you be supported, among others. So that has been happening almost everywhere. But the church has been really strong. They also go out with the gospel work. And like if you come in Uganda, maybe those who have ever come to Uganda, they know this. Almost now, each station, since then the churches are closed, each town, at least to find people who are preaching about Christ. They are preaching because here we have a freedom of worship. So people, they wake up early in the morning, they go in different streets, door-to-door evangelism, one-on-one, gospel rallies, among others. And as the Muslims have been using money to change others, but also Christians that have been using the gospel to preach all over the streets.
Very good.
Different towns, different cities, where they do door-to-door evangelism. So we are seeing that God is at work, and many people, they have turned to Christ. And even there have been some debates that have been going on everywhere, where there's cause they can bring a theme like Muhammad and also Jesus Christ, who is the true prophet of God. So people come and they debate openly. And through the discussions, and through the discussion, people, we have seen people coming to Christ, because some of these Muslims who have been converted to Christianity from Islam, they have done a tremendous job convincing other people that Jesus Christ is King and is Lord. And this has really helped a lot for people to know who Christ is. So in a nutshell, the more the Muslims have gone on bringing people to Islam through sponsorship and what have you, but also the church has stood firm to say who Christ is. And we thank God so much for that.
Very good, very good. Yeah, so even if I understood you correctly, so even in the face of financial pressures, and I believe you said it was at least initially coming from Gaddafi in Libya. Gaddafi was killed and that stopped that, but the funding still continued. But even in spite of that, people are more drawn towards Jesus, the truth, than what financial gain they may be able to get.
Yeah, you're very right. Because there was a lot of things that used to be done during the Gaddafi regime. And also, almost used to come in Uganda almost every year. I don't know why. I'm not a politician, I'm an evangelist. But I used to see him coming in Uganda and also constructing mosques everywhere. Yes, the funding for constructing mosques is still going on. Almost each village, you can find each village, there's a mosque, which is not the same as the church. But I believe that the debate which is going on, that the church has put on radios, on TVs, in trading centers, on streets, that kind of force that the church has put has opened people's eyes that yes, there's Lord. So some have turned to Christ, some are not yet, are not purely committed to salvation, but at least some have turned to Christ and don't know fully, but at least they know what is the truth. But at the same time, there's some who cross to Islam.
Right.
But,
Right.
Yeah, but the church is too strong.
Very good. All right. That's definitely encouraging. Thank you for that bit of information and word of encouragement again. And we'll be back one more time tomorrow with Moses. Save North Korean Refugees Day is tomorrow, September 24th. For more information, follow the link in the description. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you found the information and interview presented here useful and that it encouraged you to pray for these people in areas of concern and perhaps even inspired you to take positive steps of involvement to alleviate the suffering of so many around the globe. Finally, pray with me that God's peace, eternally beyond our comprehension, will guard the hearts and minds of all those who follow Christ and flow outward to bring that peace to all the world.